Hello, audience. What you're about to see is a string of commercial interpretations of the top 10 most annoying television commercials in the past 2 decades. Take a look at me, and now back down at your book. And back at me. Sadly, you must still read this book. In the next few minutes, you can join us on our magical adventure into the realm of poetry. Poem on, read it more than once. 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 Remember, class, when reading the poem, read it more than once. A poem usually has a deeper meaning that is not always discernible through the first reading. Reading it more than once will allow you to fully understand what's going on through your poem. Are you tired of not understanding poetry? Do you frequently stumble across words that you don't understand? Do you read for hours and hours and hours in vain? Well, now with Rosetta Poem, you don't have to. Say goodbye to those bulky books and not understanding what's going on in your poem. Now there's an easier way to learn how to read poetry with Rosetta Poem. This special offer includes the dictionary on a compact disc format, the Bible for allusions and references, and classical mythology, again, to help you with those confusing allusions. Hello again, class. As you've just seen, it's important to keep a dictionary on hand. While reading the poem, it's often that you come across words that you may not understand. So, we recommend that you keep on hand a dictionary, a Bible, and a copy of mythology so that you too can understand the poem on a deeper level.
Have you ever wondered who's searching for you online? Now with mypoets.com, you can see who's looking you up from around the country. You may be surprised who's searching for you.
Wow, 12 people are searching for me, Emily Dickinson? Wow, it must be time to learn poetry at Broadneck High School. Often, it can be helpful to research the author before you read a poem. Knowing about the author can give you a better idea of what the author's purpose for writing the poem was. But be careful. It's important to understand that not all poetry is autobiographical.
It's my poem and I'm reading out loud.
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 It's your poem. Read it when you need it. Practice reading poems out loud. Read it with emotion, but remember not to read it with too much emotion. The emotion's already there in the poem. Also, a helpful tip is to try reading it with friends so that you get multiple opinions on what the true meaning of the poem is.
Introducing Slow Read. 3 CDs pack 3 hours of this year's hottest poems read slowly, just the way you like it. We included Deep Ocean, Tender Touch, and Piece of My Heart, along with many others.
One of the biggest mistakes that readers make while reading the poem is reading too fast. You should remember to read slowly enough that your words are clear and distinct, and so that the meaning of the poem has time to sink in. Also recall that your ordinary rate of reading is probably too fast for the audience.
Are you tired of muddling through all these poetry words? It just seems like it's going on forever and ever.
What you need is a literary bag. Simply put all those bulky poetry books inside the patented literary bag. Then vacuum out the air. In no time at all, you will have condensed all those bulky words into something nice and concise. Doesn't this look easier to understand? Try literary bags today.
When reading the poem, it is often helpful to paraphrase what you have already read. Paraphrasing allows you to restate in your own words what the poem is about. The paraphrase should help you to identify what the central idea or theme of the poem is.
Poems should be read with rhythm. But you don't need to read the poem too rhythmically, or you'll be like my friend here. And like the Energizer Bunny, you'll seem to just keep going and going and going and going.
Read the poem so that the rhythmical pattern is felt, but not over-exaggerated. A common mistake that readers make is to read it with a ta-dum, 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 ta-dum pattern, which is boring and awful, and will often lead to a misinterpretation of what the poem is actually about. When reading, it is also important to take into consideration the punctuation at the end of the line. A common mistake that students make is stopping at the end of every line. In poetry, if there is no punctuation at the end of the line, you should read it by slightly pausing at the end and holding on to the last word just a little longer than you would the other words, and without dropping your voice. It's important to take into account what the punctuation is doing in order to get an accurate interpretation of what the poem actually means. Do you have second period AP Lit drowsiness? Can't concentrate on your poetry explications? Are you sick of going through multiple energy drinks to get through the day? But now with 5-Hour Energy, you don't have to! Be alert and read alert!
Be very alert. Be very, very, very alert.
The most important advice we can give you today is that when reading poetry, you should always be alert. A common mistake that people make is just getting in bed with their poetry, getting all snugly up with their pillow with their poetry. You cannot read poetry if you are not alert. It is not prose, it is not fiction, it is not fantasy.